Hi, everyone. I'll give people a few moments. So what has been your favorite talks that you've attended so far? It's been really cool just going from talk to talk, and then I'm like, oh no, like time to start mine. So making sure I get in here on time. Trying to see. I think I can see the chat. All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Amber. I'm a machine learning growth lead here at Arize. So I do a lot of the, I would say, technical communication, e-learning aspects for ML observability. If you took the intro to ML observability course, you probably saw me in those lectures. I also do a lot with the community chat. A lot of folks think that I am like AI for how many sequences that I send out and for having the avatar. But just so you know, I'm real. It's hard to tell anymore. So this is going to be an intro to Arize for monitoring. So if you're more interested in, I would say, the advanced version of the Arize platform, more advanced models or LLMs, there's going to be two other workshops. Dat will be doing one right after mine, and then Akan will be doing mine an hour later. And those will give some of the advanced capabilities. This is really for folks who haven't used an ML observability platform, haven't set up monitors, and are getting to do so for the first time. So before we get started, I also just want to mention that if you're looking for more information on where to find, hold on, lost links here. Okay. If you're looking for more information on where to find info once you create your Arize account, you can do so on the Arize website. You might even see, here the Phoenix open source option. And then you can look at our offerings. So if you have a classification model, you care about performance tracing, you get fast actuals, you can look at how to implement that, explainability, drift. So there's a whole host, kind of a suite of items that you can go through on your own time. And if you're curious on more e-learning, we actually have two courses we're not offering. So Maggie's going to drop the links to sign up for your free Arize account and to sign up for Arize University. I know there's a lot of folks joining the event who have completed the introductory course. We are just now launching the advanced version. So we have an advanced metrics course to help you understand when to monitor certain metrics in production. From the Arize account, you can also sign up. Maggie's going to be dropping the link on signing up for your free account. And you'll have access to this account afterwards as well. You can send in your own data. Just want to give people a few moments to do that. And then we're going to get started on the demo. And I'm going to also make sure that I can see questions. Okay, perfect. So it looks like I can see everyone's questions. If you have any, please put them in the chat. I'll be doing this live. I'll be checking the chat continuously. If you have questions afterwards, just reach out to me in the Arize community Slack. Perfect. So when you first create your Arize account, I think everyone can see the Arize platform. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So I already have an Arize account, so I'm going to log into mine. It takes a few minutes to create your Arize account. Once you log in, you're going to see kind of the current state of your platform. You might see the Welcome to Arize quick start guides. So these are going to be guides to help you explore some demo models because there's already going to be models in your account when you log in. So these are for demo purposes. You can mess around with them. You can play with them. You can resend in that data. It's for you to kind of explore different types of models like ranking, computer vision, fraud, click-through rate models, NLP. And it can also allow you to try out some different workflows. So if you're curious on how to trace bias within the platform, creating dashboards, performance tracing, you can dive through each one of those within the platform. We are actually going to be going through in-depth model monitoring and making sure your models are set up to provide you with alerts on when kind of troubleshooting needs to take place. You can also send in your own data. We'll be going through a bit of an intro to the Arize platform because, like I said, this is the beginning session. So, beginners, those who are new to ML observability, new to Arize, should be in this session. And then you can watch the advanced one and the LLM session later on. You can finish and explore or just go to the Arize homepage. Once you're in the homepage, you're going to see your organization and your space. So I can see like my org, my space. If it's just you using your account, these aren't going to matter as much, but you can add teammates, add members, and then as you kind of implement Arize through an organization, you'll have different levels of access for who can access which models in production. You'll also have models live, prediction volume, and model version seen live, as well as just a general overview of the models you see. So if these are the models and these are the monitors that are set for each model, you'll get a general overview as well as any dashboards that you recently created. All right, everyone doing okay so far? All right, perfect. I'm going to keep checking in with everyone because it can seem like a lot when you first get started. Onboarding to new tech platforms can take some, going through experiencing. So I recommend you try these processes out on your own to really get familiar with the product. And so this is our home screen. And then we do have, entire tab dedicated to looking at the models, looking at dashboards, looking at monitors. So monitors for alerts. Because the way we set up monitors, you can have different versions of your models. They can have different monitors attached. And then different team members can be alerted to different model monitors that have triggered. Projects, if you have a lot of models of a certain type, you might want to put them into a certain project and then upload data. So a lot of times the most time-consuming process for teams is the data upload. So we have a lot of kind of fast, easy options to choose from. Local files, essentially this is our drag and drop option. SDKs for Python and Java, cloud storage integrations, and then table options as well. You can also look at the job status after you've sent in the data. Your space settings, so if you are using a Python SDK, these are going to be your API keys. So you can copy these, put them into your notebook, and send in the data. So an overview of your space, and this is where you can also add in team members if you want to give them access, because even with the free account, you are able to send in your own models up to a certain point. So a certain amount of inferences. I forget the exact cutoff per tier, but the pricing is also available on our site under pricing. All right, we do have a host of integrations. So if you want to be integrated with Slack, like Amazon EventBridge, PagerDuty, there are different integrations that you can have to kind of set up these monitors and continue your training processes once an alert has triggered. All right, this takes us back to our quick start guides, which we just saw. And now we're back to exploring Arize. If you need any help at any time throughout the process, I know I showed you the Arize website where you can look at different tutorials, the step-by-step guides within the platform. You can also look at our Arize documentation, just docs.arize.com. It really runs you through each type of model. I'll even pull this up just so you're able to see it. It's very in-depth here for the different data ingestion methods, model types, tracing, monitors. We're going to be diving into this for the rest of the presentation, embeddings, and various other aspects of the Arize platform. If your question's still not answered or you're having trouble with your use case, write your questions in the Arize community Slack and the Arize platform support channel, and someone will be able to get back to you shortly. All right, great. So now let's dive into monitors. So as you see, I do have some triggered monitors here. We're going to focus on one use case to start with. So I'm going to go into my fraud use case. So this is a fraud model. It's a model that's predicting if a transaction is fraudulent or not and giving a prediction for that. Right now I have my model set up. For you, this will be a brand new model. And you're going to follow the setup instructions. I'm actually going to delete my monitors just so I can reset it, just to make sure everyone can see it. But we'll get a little bit more full screen here so I don't have to keep moving around. If there's anything you can't see, just let me know. Right now I'm looking at a certain subset of data. I'll also mention that. Because when you set up your monitors, you can set them up for like historic calculations. You can set that up for a particular time and place. Let's start by setting up our monitors. So I'm going to go to set up monitors here. And I could have just selected the next level down for setup monitors. There's normally a few ways to access like next steps within the Arize platform, just to make sure you're getting to the right spot for the next step. So for here, setting up monitors. So I have a fraud use case and it's a classification model. So these are the monitors that I'm going to see. We're going to get into, for automatic performance monitors, we're going to get into a set of ranking monitors as well, which have to do a little bit more with metrics like normalized discounted cumulative gain, mean average precision, and other ranking metrics. So for performance monitors, we'll see here recall, AUC, log loss, and a whole host of different monitors to set up for your model. So with these, it's kind of easy enabling automatic monitors. So I'm going to enable recall, I'm going to enable AUC, I'm going to enable precision, and now those have been set up for my model. I'm also going to look at drift. I'm going to enable feature drift. You can see this is on 23 features. Has been set for 23 of 23 features because for feature drift, you really want to make sure each feature isn't drifting. And data quality monitors. So if I want to look at percent empties, new values, or essentially changes in the cardinality, I can enable those as well. And then once those are set, I can go in and then check them out. So for different model types, we do have different monitors. So how the data is sent into the platform. So if it's a classification model, if it's an embedding, if it's a regression model, if it's a ranking model, these types of models will have different monitors listed, which you can automatically set up because it's use case dependent. All right, so we've set up those monitors so far. We can look at the monitor configurations. So I mentioned this kind of look back period where you can set a certain time. So this is an evaluation period because you want to make sure any inference that's coming in is being acknowledged as some kind of anomaly or something that's not quite right based on historic data. So maybe there's a seasonality component. Maybe you want to look at the last week or the last month or this time last year. So making sure what you're comparing it to is going to be the most valuable real world data that compares everything that's coming into it. Because whenever you have a monitor set, you essentially want a baseline that's going to be a great representation of what you expect for your model. And then everything coming in is going to be your current or production distribution, and you want to do those comparisons. So auto thresholds, managing drift. And so these are the defaults, but you can save them and then they'll propagate out. So my monitor listing. So before we saw like setup monitors, and now we have all these monitors actually set up for this model from just doing those few clicks, those enable clicks. And what you might see here is these are all managed monitors. So you have your dimension, or is this put on a given feature. So for feature prediction, for feature drift, prediction drift, we're going to put those on particular features. So that's essentially the dimension that we're looking at. The metric, so the metric for evaluation here for our drift metric, we have PSI, or population stability index. If you're curious on knowing more information about PSI, I recommend our intro observability course and our advanced metrics course, because in our advanced metrics course, we go into PSI advantages and disadvantages, and also comparing it to KL divergence, to the Wasserstein distance, and to a few other types of metrics. So sometimes like parametric approaches. So kind of the most common ways that we measure drift, looking at the pros and cons and which ones you should use in your own use case. Okay, let me check out here. Oh, okay. It looks like it froze for a second, but it's back. Yeah. So thanks for letting me know. Okay. Perfect. So when we see these monitors triggered, we can go in and start editing the process. We can go in and start troubleshooting and exploring data of where that alert is happening. We can also choose to mute monitors, delete monitors. I'm going to show you the process of creating a brand new monitor from scratch, just so you know what that looks like. So if I create a new drift monitor, it's going to show me my PSI, my accuracy. So if I do have a ground truth value, an actual, if you will, I will overlay the accuracy with the PSI to see is the accuracy or whatever default metric you want for the platform, is that corresponding to any drifts in my data. So being able to look at that as well as the data distributions. Again, we have our baseline distribution. So the baseline can be any data set you want. Normally the baseline will be training. Teams tend to make training the baseline and then production the current distribution. And so it's essentially like a Mad Lib. If you've ever filled out those kind of Mad Libs when you were younger, just kind of selecting things for each one of the fill in the blanks. So monitoring PSI, KL divergence, JS distance for feature. We have it as tags in the platform. Tags are metadata. So you can also set your monitors on metadata as well. Feature drift is automatically set when you click on that enable. So all the feature drift components are there. Actual class, actual score, prediction class, prediction scores. So you can set it for all of those. And again, the evaluation kind of look back time window. So it can be, you can look at comparing, every hour to the current alerts that you're getting. Every day, every few days. Every few days tends to be the most common one set by teams because just not wanting too many alerts, but making sure if something is out of the ordinary that it is caught, maybe every 30 days. Or like I said, if you do have seasonality components or you want to look back to a certain window on data from the previous year, you can do that as well. If there's a delay or if you want a particular version of that model, I would say what teams really like about being able to monitor their models here is that they can monitor different versions of their models. So you can have two different models with a similar use case, and you can monitor the different versions of them the same way. Comparing against, I'm going to select the model baseline here, but you can also make a custom baseline, again, for seasonality purposes. And then this will say what you currently have set. So I have set 2 weeks on production. So that might correspond to a retraining cycle, or it might correspond to just the data that I think is the most accurate representation for what I expect to see within my model. And I want to know any deviations from that kind of set baseline threshold. So defining for alerting, so threshold be triggered by when the metric is greater than this amount. That is a great reason why people use PSI, because there is an industry standard for thresholding. Certain metrics like KL divergence, there's not really just a set number. It really depends on your use case, your data, and it has to be defined by teams. Whereas things like PSI in the finance industry, anything above about a 0.2 indicates that there is something significant in the statistical evaluation from that model. So anything above 0.2, teams typically set monitors around. So I could change this to 0.2 instead of 0.25. You want to have a set name for the monitor, and then you want to be able to set notifications to wherever you want this monitor set. So normally people will set their email or their Slack or PagerDuty, or you can just put in your coworker's email and just have them get all the alerts. So you can review and save that. I'm going to cancel this monitor just to show you really how to set it. And this goes for data quality and performance monitors as well. They look very similar for how they're set. And you can set these monitors for any model. So these models that you're seeing here are all part of the demo set. So demo data that you're allowed to play around with. Okay, let me just check back in. Make sure I didn't freeze for a long time. Okay. Or maybe I am frozen, but I think it's working right now. Okay, perfect. So Those are the basics for setting monitors. Now let's look at monitors that may have triggered. So here we're seeing some model drift. We're seeing some alerts. If I want to go to like all my monitors, I can go to the side tab. If I want to look at monitors for a particular model, I can select that particular model and look at it. So this was my fraud use case. We just set monitors on. Looks pretty good. We are getting a bit of drift for fairness. So I can click right into that monitor. When you set up alerts, it will take you right to that monitor that's being triggered. So say I had a PSI set, here I had it set for a very low value, it triggered, and then I can go into it directly and I can troubleshoot drift. So I could troubleshoot it from the screen or really dive in by going into the drift portion of the Arize platform. And as you can see, I made that monitor super conservative. So we're not seeing a whole lot of drift. So I could probably make that monitor less conservative and move it up so I'm not getting alerts for very low drift. If I'm looking back at a time when there was like higher drift, I can kind of look back on that and see. I think I double clicked and zoomed in on the data there. Yeah, let me go back to my main monitors. I am going to look. Okay, all good, not frozen. Thank you. Oh, okay. A lot of screens at once. I need a monitor is really the conclusion here. All right, we're gonna go back into my fraud use case and look at the monitors that have triggered. So right now we're seeing everything is good. So nothing has triggered recently, but I can look back in time and see if there's been any issues. So we're looking pretty good here, but if you did get an alert on, say, precision has triggered within your model, you would go and troubleshoot that model performance directly, and then you can do a different comparison. So I'm not going to dive into the troubleshooting workflow. There'll be more on that in the advanced lab and all the labs from the Arize University intro course. So you'll have all those options and be able to really dive into troubleshooting algorithmic bias, so to see if a model is fair. And you'll be able to dive into a few other aspects, including like the advanced metrics capabilities. So if you are looking for what's the best metric to use for different types of algorithmic drift, you can calculate those as well and begin troubleshooting them. So a lot more details in there. The last thing I want to show, just to make sure you're aware of it, is going to be this ranking use case. Because we should do probably like one ranking, one classification, one regression use case, just so you're aware of what these monitors look like. And so just so you know, we do have custom metrics as well. So if you don't see the metric that you want to use to measure your model, we pretty much have all the most common and standard metrics that teams are using in production, but you might have a very specific one. You can make custom metrics to then have your automated monitors propagate that custom metric. That tends to be a question we get a lot. You can do that in the platform. All right, great. So I'm going to go into my monitors. And so these other tabs here, the drift tracing, the performance tracing, those are what you go into, data ingestion, when you get an alert that's triggered in that category. So if you want to troubleshoot, find out where this error is happening, is it in metadata? Is it in a feature? Is it in, one particular input to that feature? You can do that analysis by going into those tabs. All right, so I'm going to remove all these monitors. So here you can see we did put this in as a ranking model. When you are uploading a model to Arize, we already went through the different ways you can upload your data, and it will help you figure out, is this a ranking model? Is this a classification? Is this a regression model? Just so you're provided with the most automated way to set your monitors, to trigger your troubleshooting cycles, just to make it as streamlined as possible. So now I reset my monitors, so I'm going to set them up. And here you can see performance monitors. Here we're going to have NDCG. So this is if you really care about the relevancy of your recommendations. We do have material on NDCG and on performance metrics in several of the Arize blogs and in the advanced course. So we do have a full unit that's dedicated to ranking metrics. So we have group AUC, mean reciprocal rank. This is good for a targeted search. But I'm going to enable NDCG on my monitors. And then I can also enable prediction drift to make sure your model is behaving as expected, and feature drift as well. So if you don't have the results back, so say you're providing recommendations, and it's taken a while to get those ground truths back, you can have feature drift set and prediction drift set. So when you have delayed ground truths in actual, you're still trying to figure out, is the data that I'm seeing in my platform, the data that I'm seeing in my inferences, still looking acceptable? Is the model still making good decisions, essentially, before we find out if the person or the user that those decisions are for, if that's valuable to them? So I'm going to enable feature drift as well. And let's see here. So various data quality monitors, making sure your data is getting in, that it's not missing, that it is acceptable, that there's not big changes in cardinality, especially for categorical features. An example of this might be maybe you have a model and one of the features are the 50 US states. If you get new kind of initials coming in and now it's saying like, hey, cardinality is triggered, we're above 50, we're at 70, you might realize that maybe your model was trained on capitalized states and uncapitalized states are coming in, or people are putting in like the 2 letters for different countries and not for states. So just an example there of what you might see. All right, we have our monitors enabled. We can look at our listings now. And then we'll be able to see kind of statuses. So all statuses, is it triggered? Is it healthy? Is there data? The monitoring type. So we talked about drift, performance for custom metrics. So again, if you have one of those custom metrics you want to get in, data quality, and then custom and managed as well here. And then we do see all our PSI and NDCG values. Again, this will take you to the monitor itself. From there, you can start troubleshooting. Let me check real quick if there's any questions here. All right, like I said, this is the intro basic way to set up your monitors. So we're going through, we're setting up our monitors, we're giving them places to send the alerts. So different team members can track different parts of models or different versions of models. And you can even be sharing the same space. So if anything triggers, you can troubleshoot that performance if it doesn't look as expected. And the great part of this is you could spend as much time or as little time in the platform as you would like. I would say there's kind of 2 different processes. There's the troubleshooting process, like, oh, something is wrong. And there's the exploratory process where you do have your monitor set, but then you're really diving into seeing what is kind of being accounted for in your model. All right, perfect. So that concludes our beginner session. If you have any questions, please reach out to me in the Arize community Slack. And I hope you attend the advanced and LLM workshops that are happening after. Thank you.